Except active citizens. In 2010, there was lead poisoning in Zamfara State. At that time, over 700 children died due to artisanal mining. In 2012, I was struggling to get information on how government has responded, because at that time, it was declared a national emergency and billions of naira was released. I'm still small, but that time I was much more smaller and younger. I think I was about 23, 24 years old. So I went to the Ministry of Health. I went to the Ministry of Mines and Solid Minerals. And I went to the Ministry of Environment. And I asked them, what have you done for the past 2 years after this incident was declared a national emergency? And they asked me, young man, are you jobless? Why are you asking? Who are you? Who sent you? Are you part of the opposition? I said, none of the above. I'm just a curious, active citizen that want to find out how government is using resources to bring about change in local communities. So they would send me to the epidemiological department, public health department, pollution control department. So I was just going, if you've been to Federal Secretariat, they'll send me to the 11th floor, send me back to the 4th floor, then to the 1st floor. So they kept tossing me around. Of course, I got angry and agitated. I got on a bus going to Gusau, Zamfara State. And this take about 7 hours under 40, 42 degrees centigrade, so really hot. So when I got to Gusau, at the motor park, I was asking, and by the way, before that time, I've never been to Zamfara State. And you know, I might look like a Hausa Fulani man. I'm not from the north, neither am I from the south, east, or west. Like my sister Aisha, I'm a Nigerian. So I got to Gusau and I was asking at the motor park, I want to go to that community that children had died 2 years before now. So everybody that looked at me then would think something was wrong with me, because nobody actually want to go to that community. But of course, I was not behaving like a mad person. I was properly dressed. So a lady now directed me that I had to take another 4.5-hour trip to the local government, which is Anka local government. Before that time, the road was terrible. So I got to Anka. And by the way, in Anka, there's no longer mobile network. So I was in the middle of nowhere in Nigeria, disconnected from the world at large. So in Anka, I was asking people there, please, I want to go to that community where people had died 2 years before now. And they would look at me again. And they'll say, okay, now you have to get a motorbike. Because the only way you can go to that community, by the way, there was no road. So you go on a donkey, a camel, a horse, or a motorbike. So they called the motorbike for me and negotiated with him. And he took me. It took over 3 hours to get to this community. There was no road, so it was a pathway. So I got to the community first. I found out that no single cent of the billions got to this community. I found out that over 700 children actually died, so it was underreported. And then I asked them, are you aware that government had approved and released money? They said yes, they listened to it on VOA and BBC Hausa, and that they've been waiting for this money to arrive for the past 2 years. And by the way, 1,005 children, or 1,500 children rather, were very sick and at the verge of losing their life if nothing is done. So I then asked, what was the root cause? The root cause was local people were mining and getting gold beneath them. And then they're processing this gold using ore, which is now contaminating the soil and getting young children below 5 years dying because of the level of acidity. So I said, okay, where is this mining site? Or they said they had on radio again, government had declared that mining was illegal. So they had to go into the forest. I said, okay, please, can we go to the forest? So the bike guy that took me said, our contract ended here. That he's only liable to take me back to Anka, that he can't go with me into the forest. So they got another motorbike and negotiated with him to take, by the way, there was no signal, no network. Nobody knew where I was, but I was still in Nigeria. So another bike took me 2 hours deep into the forest, where I saw economic activities. Local miners mining. You had middlemen who were ready to buy gold. You had market women selling food. There was all sort of people there, people selling hard drugs. Because if you go to a mining site, if you're not taking something, you cannot go down more than 6 feet trying to find gold. As a curious mind, I joined them into that pit, just to also understand and comprehend why people are putting their lives at risk. And I asked the miners, are you aware that children had died and more would die if you continue? And they said, yes, that these children came from God and they've gone back to God. And that, by the way, this mining activity had brought them out of poverty. That some of them, they even showed me their teeth, their gold teeth, that they've been able to go to Mecca for Hajj. So for them, it's about survival and coming out of poverty. So I traveled or journeyed back 18 hours to Abuja, the capital city where I'm based. So I was having sleepless nights. I was seeing the faces of grandmothers, the local miners, and myself inside some very deep pit. So I could not sleep for days. So I called my friends. I said, I've gone to Zamfara. I've seen the plight of the people. And by the way, with the permission of the communities, I had pictures and videos. And at that time, you call them amateur pictures and videos. So I told my friends, can we aggregate this information and put it on digital media and get attention that is needed? Because then I was just one person, a young guy who really wanted change to come to this community. And that's how we started. We created a hashtag called Save Bagega. And why Save Bagega? The community's name was Bagega, but they needed to be saved. So we started putting all this information on Twitter. And what we did was to relate to the emotions of the Nigerian people. Everyone has a grandmother. Everybody's from one village or another, even if we're in the city. And we had mass number of people on social media, because at that time, everybody was just always antagonizing and just cussing on social media. So we wanted to move that energy into a cause. And so we started saying, please can you retweet and our hashtag and, get government attention. So it went from Twitter to CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, DW. And interestingly, that was when I found out that I was the only guy that have been to this community, not one government official, both at local government, state, or national government. Nobody. And then it moved from international media to local media, so AIT channels, NTA. And then it became an issue in the country from Twitter. And the then president called for a press conference and said, I've approved the sum of $5.3 million, which is over ₦1 billion naira, for remediation, safer mining practices, and healthcare intervention for the sick children. And we were very excited. By the way, this took us 6 months, traveling back and forth and engaging on Twitter. So we were very excited, but we were not carried away, because before now, 2 years before now, monies were released, and then it found her way to private pockets. So that was how we better follow the money. And for us, we wanted to answer, where is the funds coming from? Federal government. Where is it going to? State, Bagega community. And how is this funds being utilized? I'll share one quick story. When the Ministry of Environment was remediating, that's taking the topsoil and bringing fresh soil, so that the children, children below 5, they play with sand. And most time they take the sand and put in their mouth. So they hired local laborers from the community. And on that fateful day, they were paying them 1,500 daily laborers fee. And then they called themselves under a big mango tree. And in communities, they usually meet under a tree or at the chief's house. And they said, well, according to Follow the Money, we're supposed to get 3,000 naira daily as local laborers. Because what we did was to look at how much budget this money was supposed to go to and break it down into simple languages, local languages, so that community members are empowered to know how this money will be utilized and continue to demand even when we're not there. And then they call the contractor from the Ministry of Environment and say, we have a document from Follow the Money. So what we also do is we print visualization and infographics, because a lot of them don't know how to read and write, but we need to educate them so they know they're right. And then they say, well, Follow the Money say you're supposed to pay us 3,000. Why are you giving us 115? And then the contractor went back and forth and then balanced them 1,500. So they got what is duly theirs because they knew their rights. Today, by the way, it will take you less than, so from Anchor, or rather from even Gusau to the community, it will take you less than 2 hours. So what we have done with our campaign is to show the plight and the reality of these communities, and government came in, they provided access road, and today you have MTN, you have Airtel. I'm not doing advert for them, but the last time I was in Bagega community, I actually did a tweet saying, 2 years before now, I could not tweet, but here I am, sharing live Twitter pictures and video, and all the children did not even recognize me because then they were 5 years. But they're doing very fine. And today, Bagega community have one of the best public primary school with a computer laboratory. I see that now we have a lot of campaigns on digital media, from Not Too Young to Run, now reserve seat for women bill. And a lot of young people jump on different trends. But you see, for me, social media is 5%. 95% is offline. I know a lot of you will be wondering, how did I do all of this without getting arrested? I've dealt with intimidation, I've dealt with harassment, I've dealt with threats, but I've never been arrested because what I share on digital media is verifiable information. And with fake news, misinformation, and disinformation, as young people, you have to be extremely careful. And I've never insulted anyone on social media because I see a lot of young people. Yes, I'm an activist. I have a lot of energy. I want change to happen now. But the people you're dealing with also have emotions. And these are decision makers. So when you insult people, they would not even listen to you again. I believe that my generation is a blessed generation with technology, but it's important how we put it to use. I believe that change can happen using technology, but we must bring factivism and activism together. I've seen a lot of digital media campaigns fail because they only stay online. They don't go offline. A lot of time when you bring these issues on Twitter and Facebook, sometimes we forget that it's only about 39 million people that are on social media, if you look at data. Because in this part of the world, data is very expensive. Everybody carries a smartphone. But have you asked people how much have they subscribed? You see some people, they only subscribe for WhatsApp. Some people only subscribe for Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter, or even Instagram. So for us here, we're privileged. But how are we using our voice on digital media, but connecting offline? I see a lot of people would say, why would I interact with, now we're doing classism, sadly, on even digital media. We have different groups with their heads on digital media. I remember, maybe I should even pause and reflect. A lot of us want to change Nigeria, isn't it? Or we want Nigeria to change, and we want to be part of that value chain. And maybe Africa, because we have friends from other countries. Do you know Mama Africa? Do you know Nigeria? Apart from your state, how many states have you been through? When was the last time you traveled by road? Let's ask ourselves this simple question. I've been to the 36 states by road. Because you can't say you want to take voices, bring them on Twitter or Facebook and amplify them, but you don't know them. You don't know the people you're talking about. So for me, I've been to states across the country. I've slept in these states. Because again, you can't talk about people without knowing them and knowing the plights and the challenges that they feel. So I implore you as young people, as change makers, as we continue to use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, let us pause and reflect and take 95% of our energy and go offline. Let's drop the phones. Before we take them and we like or retweet, let's drop them. Let us talk to the people. Because my sister and friend talked about mobilizing active citizen. For you to be active, you need to do offline campaigns. I use her as an example because when I was much younger, we used to be on the street protesting, tear gas thrown at us, even bullets sometimes. Because you see, change comes with a cost. Because status quo is benefiting some people and you want to take it away from them. So you won't change. It does come with a cost. And it is not by folding our hands and being on Twitter that this change would happen.